Thanks, Marcia.
Hi, Marcia. How are you? Good, thank you. Good. So far. Oh no. How long ago? You got floaty. Floaty. Yeah, I have that in one of my house too. They won't go in and pull my house. Yeah. They said I can see, so that's we're gonna count that as a blessing. Let it be there.
Apparently you were correct.
Yeah.
Madam Clerk, I'd like to make note that one of the Channel Islands district representatives is late, now sitting. Oh,
Oh, I take this seriously.
you shouldn't. Okay, so I think now that we have the full group here, we'll call the meeting to order. First order of business is we have an agenda. Do I hear a motion for approval?
Second.
I've heard a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so approved. So that brings us to
Are we gonna do roll call?
oh, I skipped over roll call. See what you did? You
I
threw
mean,
me
just
off.
so it's verbal.
Okay, so Madam Clerk, let the record reflect that we took one item out of order, but we'll now catch up to the roll call, if you would please.
Member Spiegel?
Yes.
Alternate Member Marcus? Member Sharkey? Ex officio Member Nordoff? And Chair Fig.
Here.
And Sylvia Schnapp is here.
Oh,
I'm sorry, Member Schnapp.
I'm
boy,
on
we're
this
really on our
board, am I?
game
Yes.
today. Okay, so we have, all members are present, and we just approved the agenda, so we'll now move to consent items. Do I hear a motion for approval?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so approved. That brings us to business items, and we have some changes of members here. Do I hear nominations for the chair? As I understand it, it has to be a city representative, and the vice chair is a beach district representative. Is that correct?
No, sir.
reverse.
No, sir.
The staff report
I know. It's wrong.
has the proper position. This year, for chair, the nomination would come from Channel Islands Beach, and the vice chair would come from the city.
Okay.
It's the agenda that has it backwards.
Backwards. Okay, so with that, it's really your show, and in theory, we can participate in the nominations, but it would seem to me to give you the opportunity to nominate from within. So, do I hear nominations?
Yes, I would like to nominate Ellen Spiegel. She will probably be our next president. We postponed that issue, so I am nominating her for chair for this board.
Is that acceptable?
Yes.
Any other nominations?
Move to close nominations.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second. Okay, so we have a nomination for the new chair. Let's not even do a roll call. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so we have unanimous approval. All right, so that now means that you come over here, and I'll go over there.
Let's see.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Oh, she made one her purse? Maybe you think?
Well,
Her keys and this other stuff.
yeah, keys,
No?
calendar, purse. Thank you.
I have to get a briefcase and just put everything in a briefcase.
Oh, this is gonna make me eat it. I'm bringing a pillow to sit on next time.
Would you like this chair instead?
No, it's
Because I know
okay.
that's a low seater.
I know, but it's so comfortable.
Okay.
Okay. Business items. For A, we did.
Point of order, we haven't selected a vice chair, have we?
Oh,
And I nominate Mayor Schnapp.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Do you change places too?
We do.
We could, but not
We could,
today.
but that's okay.
Okay. So at this point, item B, appointment to the Association of Water Agencies of Ventura County Board of Directors. Anybody want to nominate themselves? Yes. One of those things, huh? Oh,
Let me see, Madam Chair, this meets on Thursdays, does it? I believe.
I can't.
Does
I
anybody know?
believe it is, but I would have to get confirmation
Yeah, I've got
of
Thursday
that.
conflicts usually, so.
Do you know
Okay.
what time the board meets?
You know, the AWA representative was, I requested that information on when the nominations would actually be sworn in or honored in, and that information has not come back. So I can check back with them to find out the specifics of when it meets, when the board meets.
Is it possible to postpone this item?
Get it up to me.
It's on.
I would think so, because it doesn't go until March, and when I made the request, it was during the holidays, so it's reasonable to assume that we'd be able to get that information by next month.
So move.
Yeah, second.
All those you go one by one? with-
You don't have to.
You don't have
Okay,
to.
all those who in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No one opposed. Okay, going on to C, which is the brackish water reclamation demonstration facility operational report. May I
Yes.
just ask one thing? If I'm not mistaken, I believe Member Munoz, did I say it right?
Stop, yeah.
Yes, had asked for it to be between option 1 and 2. She wanted the information for that. Have we got it?
With this attachment, there is an options on the attachment. It's not between 1 and 2, but it shows the difference between 1 versus 2, and then with the plant in membrane production mode. So those are the 3 options that are displayed in this chart. And then at the very bottom of the chart, there's 5 operational actual expenses that occurred for the last 5 years as a comparison. And I included those 5 years so that they would have a comparison of when the membrane production was online and then when it went offline.
Sylvia, does that
So,
meet your
yeah, so
specifications?
I'm recalling something different, and I'm not recalling that it was to go and bypass, because for some reason, I'm recalling that last month we already knew we were using the system, right?
Correct.
So it was between 2 of them, and the notes may not reflect what I felt we had discussed. That's my concern.
No, I didn't
So-
think it did either, but I
Yeah.
wasn't sure, that's why I asked you.
Yeah.
I'm happy to clarify any questions.
Well, just wondering if we ever got the information about, I'm going to say, if option 1, and between option 1 and option 2, I'm just going to say 1.5 that Ms. Munoz had mentioned at the last, she wanted the information that we could perhaps go into that one. That combination.
Option 1 and option 2 are both with the membranes in bypass mode.
Right.
but they have a different ratio of blending.
Right.
So the water quality would go from worse to a little bit better.
Right,
And then option 3 is with the
With
trains in production mode and operating
so when,
for the rest of this fiscal year.
right, so if the membranes aren't working and you have to go to option 1 or option 2, it was Ms. Munoz who mentioned 1.5, something in between.
Okay.
Do we have that information?
No, no, ma'am.
No. Do you
I can
want,
provide that.
do you want that for next meeting?
So it's all with regards to, I think it was just an operational report, and I had felt where there were two options that we were looking at, and one, there was a cost, and one, there was a savings, and I was kind of trying to hit it in the middle, where there would be net zero, you know, where the cost would equate our expense, well, it would be net zero, right?
Right.
If you look at option 1 and 2, you'll see a difference of 270,000. And option 3 is with the trains in production mode, and it's about half of that split between option 1 and option 2. But that's with the trains online.
Right.
So it does fall into that 1.5 area, but not in a blending format. It's in that area based on trains being in production.
So I guess it would be all regards to, if this is a report, maybe saying something that would bring us to that net zero,
Right.
but it doesn't necessarily make any changes according to what we're running, correct? This is just a report from you, right, Steve?
Yes, ma'am. And just by looking at the numbers, it would probably be right around a 75-25 split.
Which would then be that between 1 and 2, huh?
Correct.
Yeah,
Instead of a 80-20 split and a 70-30 split, it would be right around 75-25.
so maybe if we could just have the notes then reflect that we're really sitting between both option 1 and option 2, 75-25, which could be that, you know, it's a net zero. We're not saving any money, but we're not overspending.
Okay.
Yeah, Steve. So right now, we're operating with the membranes in operation. The train is running, and we're so essentially in option 3,
Correct.
which brings us in below budget. Now, the anticipation is for the rest of the year that we'll still be able to do that?
We are hopeful. So far, all indications have shown that there's been no operational issues, both on the United Water Conservation District side and our side.
But
So- so far it's working.
if something were to go south on that, we'd be back in a train-off condition
Correct,
in blending. Then the decision would be what the ratio is.
correct.
But that wouldn't be, as of now, we don't think that's going to be for the rest of the year. That could be some of the time, X number of days or whatever. And that would produce, you know, something, a smaller number than we're seeing here, because this is projecting out for the rest of the year, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So, let me see, so you're asking direction for what that split should be, should the condition of the inflow deteriorate to a point where we can't operate the treatment train?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, and from discussion on the board, we're looking at, I guess, you know, as you're the one that threw out the 75%.
Correct, and I can include that in next month's report.
And that would bring us somewhere into a net zero operating condition.
It all depends on the water purchase values, because as you can see, the current budget is based on projected deliveries, and we're already going to be under the projected deliveries because we've already operated for 6 months of the year.
So effectively, we've already saved some
Some.
money, and we're either going to save more money or use some of the savings we've already had.
Correct. It will still, at the end of the year, is projected to come in under budget.
All right, so it's actually, because we're already operating the train, it's actually not a year-long net zero condition based on 75%. We could go to the 71% better quality and still come in under budget for the year.
At 70-30 split, it would be about 120. If we went into a 70-30 split, in this example, it said December 1st. So, but that's not happening. I didn't want to change the dates to
Right.
distort the information that was already reported to you.
Right, so, as it looks to me, unless I'm really misreading this, we've already achieved a certain amount of savings. We could, in fact, use those savings to have higher quality water should we be in a condition that the train wouldn't operate.
Correct. We could change the blending ratios
Okay,
to a higher quality.
okay.
And if I may too, these options 1, 2, and 3 only relate to the cost of supplied water or purchased water. The actual operating cost of the facility is the 5 annual numbers at the bottom. Those give you a comparison of total expenditures made during those 5 fiscal years. And it includes periods of time when 2013 and 14 we were in membrane production mode, and then 15, 16, and most of 17 we were out of production mode and in bypass. So you can see the difference between the production with membranes the first 2 years and the expense in bypass mode for the last 3 years.
Okay, so looking at the numbers here, my opinion would be that we need at least, we shouldn't go more than 75%, let's put it that way, and try to get the best quality water we can. Since, we're not looking at, if we're looking at a complete year in these conditions, it might be a little different, but we've already achieved some savings, and we don't know, if we're going to be, if the membranes will be off. I would, personally, I would prefer targeting better water quality.
Chair Spiegel, I think
I'm
Robert
sorry.
wants to speak.
Yes.
Thank you. So, when we say water quality, from a base perspective, I like real simple pictures. That's sediments in our system, and anything we can do to minimize the sediments, we appreciate.
Director Sharkey. Question. When you said you would prefer to have better quality, and I would too, would that mean that you would go, the membranes weren't working, you'd go to 2?
Yeah, basically with what's presented to us here.
Yes.
I wouldn't, we talked about a 75-25 split. I wouldn't go any higher than that. We're looking, the projection here is 71.
Right.
And yeah, we could still, we could still target net zero for the year, depending. So I think that ought to be pretty much our objective. If we can do net zero, or if we can get some savings, all the better. But Mr. Narl makes a good point. Sediment and friction and things like that in the water are important to them in their operations. So I take that comment advisedly.
Okay, I understand that. And so, is there a motion?
I move the recommendation, receive and file, with the, I guess, added recommendation. Is that, can you read that?
Yeah. From Director Sharkey.
75,
Well, no worse than 75.
yeah, the best quality possible, not to exceed net zero. How does that work?
Okay, I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So now we're going down to our Fox Canyon Groundwater Management Agency. An update on that?
Yes,
Thank you.
Madam Chair. On As reported previously, on November 22nd, 2017, the Fox Canyon Groundwater Management Agency released on its website the 430-page document of the preliminary groundwater sustainability management plan. That plan is full of data gaps, and the GMA is aware of those data gaps. The consultant and all the stakeholders are aware of those data gaps. However, in January 3rd of 2018, the FCGMA board adopted the preliminary draft report or the plan and is expecting a 90-day comment period on this plan. So the M&I group and the Oxnard Pleasant Valley group, which is largely comprised of agricultural interest, will be getting together and having discussions to talk about the plan and the data gaps and what we can do to help mitigate those issues. Some of the items that are on the forefront right now that may be of interest to this board is that in order for the GMA to adopt this plan July 1st, 2018, which is their target, they would need to have an ordinance adopted by May 23rd, 2018. In order for them to adopt by May 23rd, 2018, then the stakeholders groups would have to get together and provide them information by February 28th if we were to come up with a new plan in order for the GMA board to meet that deadline. The interim plan baseline will be from operational pumping from 2003 to 2016 for all pumpers, similar to the baseline period that they used for determining the historical allocation and emergency ordinance E. They use the same type of period for baseline. They use actual pumping records for each pumper, and then everybody's on the same field. There will be a stakeholders meeting February 28th to review, January 18th, which is this Thursday, to review some of the information that's out there on the website now and for the stakeholders to ask questions. That's available this Thursday at 6:30 at Rio Vista Middle School. The Executive Committee will be meeting on February 13th, 2018 at the Government Center, and we'll be interested in hearing if there's any new developments from the stakeholder groups, the M&I group and the OPB group, to provide them additional information on options for the plan. There will be I think this February 8th meeting got rescheduled. I got emails today that there's 2 meetings planned for the OPB group and the M&I group. So I'm going to acknowledge that February 8th date has been changed, but I do not have the exact date with me today. Public comment should be made based on data currently inputted into the plan, even with the data gaps. The GMA's thought process is we know that it's not a complete document, and we also know that it'll be a working document through its lifetime. The document will continue to be a working document. It will be adjusted. It will go and have periods that will allow for wet periods or extended drought periods. And that's why they want to use the 60-40 split that was proposed by the M&I group with a flexibility capability within the plan. They want to be able, so when it's a wet year, they want to be able to loosen the reins a little bit, as long as it's not detrimental to the basin. And if it's in an extended dry year, they want to be able to tighten the reins a little bit to keep the basin in check. So it's not just going to be a 60-40 split between M&I and ag. They're going to be a 60-40 with a flexibility plan. That flexibility plan has not been determined yet. So those are some of the questions that are facing us in trying to review this document and come up with suggestions to the board. We too know that the document is not complete. We too know that it's going to be a working document, so we're going to continue to do our best to get together, have these discussions, and see if we can't, as a group, provide some recommendations to the board. And with that, if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
There doesn't seem to be. I might have gotten a little confused, so I'd appreciate it if you put me on the right track. Last meeting, we talked about the possibility of getting all the agencies together to more or less come up with the solidarity of a way to deal with this. Has anything been done to motivate?
Well, we've been meeting together as a group for over the last 2 years to come up with ways or ideas that can make recommendations to the board for implementation into the plan. What we're doing now, instead of the February, on this January 18th meeting, on the February 8th meeting, 2018, the bottom bullet point of the report. That's the meeting that the M&I and OPB group would get together as a whole and have another one of those discussions. That meeting has been changed. So there is action occurring. We are trying to there's about 45 people total into that meeting, so it takes a little bit of coordinating. I know that there are people that emails are out today that are trying to set that up. That's why I say I don't have the exact date for this meeting, but I know it's going to be within the next 2 weeks. They want it faster than the February 8th timeframe. So we're working to get that meeting, have that meeting, and probably have them more regular. Now that we have deadlines to meet and mandates set by the GMA board, we're probably going to meet more frequently.
Anything? No, at that point, it is recommended that the board receive and file this report, so there's no voting on this, it's just,
Move to receive and file.
oh, is that it? Second. Move to receive and file. You're so quiet. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Are those opposed? Okay. Item E, Port Hueneme Water Agency Audit.
Madam Chair,
Report.
may I interject here? There's been some concern that some of the board members did not, in fact, see the audit report prior to this moment. I don't know whether that's because of confusion with the emails or what, but I believe that every member's been presented with a hard copy here today. I merely wanted to point out that receiving and filing the audit does not prevent your inspection of it or questions at a later meeting which can be addressed.
Okay. So at that
Maybe I could suggest that we approve the audit with the ability at a later date to ask any questions that might be necessary, because some of us have not looked at the audit.
If the member would accept a minor revision,
Please.
the board actually does not approve the audit.
Okay, I don't have the, okay.
Yeah, that's to maintain the independence of the auditor.
Of course.
So all we do is receive and file. So if that would be the motion, then that would be subject to later question.
Yes, thank you.
No problem.
to receive
Okay.
and file. Second.
I will second, and I'll ask the chair if it might be appropriate to ask if anybody has questions or if there's any presentation that the staff would like to make on the audit before we vote.
Absolutely. Anybody around have anything to say? I have to go over it before I can, so.
Yeah, I have a question, though. In the background and analysis presented here in staff report, it said that there was a sampling, and I know when audits are done, not every single piece of paper is reviewed, but certain elements of it then passes, in terms of what is selected. And so in the notes here for 4E, it said that 3 of 35 samples tested. So we're looking at 100% of all the items contain a stamp to reflect received.
Yeah, and their sample size was 35 items. Normally, we don't put in that kind of detail. Since this was the first one I've been through, I kind of put in that detail, and just to kind of show how detailed they look at these and what kind of items they look at.
Okay. That's it.
Excuse me for one moment. What is your name, since I,
My name is Ken McDonald. I'm the interim finance director.
okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And were you the one who did the audit for Port Wine? Were you the one who did the
No,
audit?
the auditors come through and review this information that was completed before I had started. I think my first date was October 30th, but I was involved with them getting the final review and kind of reviewing it. But like you, there's not really an approval process. We just look to make sure it's accurate. We have a management response if there was one. There wasn't because there was no serious findings. But that's what keeps the auditor independent, is because they're coming and working for you as the board
Okay.
and working through us as management, and then reporting back that, yes, management is fairly reporting their information to you and all that. If anybody does have any questions for it, I can answer them at any time. Most of them are general audit questions that, audit reports that I've been through in other cities and water agencies and whatnot.
Thank you. Did you have something to say? No? No one has anything to say. So at that point, it's yes, well, it's call. Yes, I was going to say, I was going to say to receive and file the agency's audit report. Do I have a?
We need a vote.
Oh, who's the motion?
Marcia made the motion.
And who
I
made
made
the,
the second.
and you made the second? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? A little bit different. Yes. Okay, board members, any reports to be made? We'll start, Mr. Fig, we'll start by you.
No, I have
Nothing to say. You're resting, okay.
other than to say congratulations.
Thank you. Ms. McGee?
No,
No?
no questions.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Again.
May it be a good one.
Yeah.
Not just happy, but good.
Okay. Well, then there's no comments. Why, no? But he's important. He's important.
If are we coming on this, or are we coming in general?
Would you
In
like to go
general.
back on this?
No. In general, I had made a comment asking for help with the Fox Canyon Management Agency, that they seem to be not acknowledging that the base wanted a better representation at that agency. And we did get email traffic that they have started to respond to us, so that piece is taken care of. So thank you.
So that was gonna be for item number 6.
Oh,
I was gonna
I'm ahead of
present it
that. I'm
as,
sorry.
we're missing the letter, because
Right.
I had asked to have a letter, but it was missing from this agenda.
But what I did is I sent Steve the email that shows the correspondence there. Fox Canyon is responding to us, so in advance of any other letter.
Very good.
Yeah, Madam Chair, yeah, and that was something I forwarded to one of the board members as well. I don't know if you got it, you were in on that loop, it went through our staff and back and forth. So I hope it's getting cleared up.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure why they moved forward, but you never know. Maybe just started discussing it may have had something to do with that.
Well, they never thought you were excluded. That's the impression I got.
Okay, and are there any new business to be agenda?
So with
Agendas for next-
with what Mr. Nordall has mentioned, is that could we do a letter, but still stating that we find it to be very important that the base is included in this, and we understand that there's been some positive communications moving forward, but just to push them into, continuing this process. So that's what I would like to have be put on the agenda for next month, if we can.
Well, Madam Chair, let me suggest that things are working. And
So not to
they're
touch it?
working out, and I don't know, we may want to put it on the agenda just in case. But the impression I have, at least from my contacts, are that things are kind of moving, and there's a process here, and whether we want to inject ourselves into it or not, maybe, we may want to proceed with, tread a little bit lightly I guess, but it wouldn't hurt maybe to put it on the agenda just in case there's some need for it, I guess. That way it's on the agenda.
Sure, yeah.
And you can always
because-
take action or not,
right.
if you choose.
Right, because it should have been on the agenda for today, but yeah. So I would ask that we would put that on the agenda for next month.
Michelle, you got it. Okay. So at this point, we have an open forum. If someone in the audience would like to speak to the board on any matter that was not on the agenda,
I would like to suggest in the future, we allow your executive director to have a spot, the opportunity to address us on issues that are relevant to our agency. Now would be the time.
do you want to be a board member?
What about the agenda?
I'll politely decline, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, former Chair Fig. Yeah, if we can add that to future agendas, whatever value I can provide at the end of your meetings, be happy to share my comments then. The only thing I will say regarding today and what's going to happen down the pipeline is I understand you guys went through the clicker exercise, and I just hope that was a fruitful exercise for you all, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing, as well as you are, what the results of those are going to be and what the future of PHWA may look like. So this is kind of the beginning. So look forward to seeing that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Do you know when they're going to be coming back? When the agency's going to be coming back to talk to the council?
We have a meeting with the consultant, I believe it's February 13th, to review the results or an analysis of the study of the clickers. So we probably won't be bringing it back to city council until March with the findings. It might come sooner. I don't know if action is going to be needed in the February meeting workshop or not, or if it's going to be occurring at a council meeting. That's to be determined.
Okay, because our next meeting is on, during the next Tuesday? Tuesday, not the 19th, okay. On Tuesday, the 20th, and you say you're going to be getting it the 13th?
We're having a workshop that's
Oh.
scheduled for the 13th to review the analysis. So it'd be too late for that meeting to have a report or agenda item.
It just would be interesting if you could do it sooner, but
As soon as it's available,
that's
I'm sure
right.
we'll be happy to share it with this board,
thank you.
our finding, and maybe even the next steps.
You know,
Although-
one of the things, Chair Spiegel, one of the things that did come out in that meeting is to actually have the results of your meeting, because we don't
Absolutely.
have those findings, and so that was one of the things we put back on the consultant, that
Absolutely.
it would be good to see.
Okay. At this point, adjournment is at 4:39, and we'll be seeing one another on February the 20th. Right?
Yes, due to Monday being a holiday that week.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Ah.